think we're live.
I think we're live. I think we are. This is going to be one of the more live Talking Reds that I think we've done, just because everything is a bit of a movable feast at the moment. I'm Josh Sexton, joined by Harriet Prior today. And Harriet, obviously the sort of big umbrella of the news, if you want to call it that, is that the Liverpool-Arsenal game looks likely to be postponed. The sort of latest aspect of that, though, is that Pep Lijnders has been one of the sort of suspected cases of COVID, which is obviously a massive shame for him. Hopefully he is all well, but it means that Liverpool are looking for a new man on the touchline once again, after obviously Jurgen Klopp was one of the suspected COVID cases, and it just feels like it's never going to end, doesn't it?
No, it feels like every morning you wake up at the moment, you just look on your phone and there's just the walls coming in more and more and more. And I think Pep Lijnders now, that feels like the final straw, that if maybe there was a little bit of hope that the Arsenal game could still go ahead, that there's just no way that the EFL can reasonably say now, yeah, you can go and play without even a manager or an assistant manager there, regardless of the player situation. It's all a bit much, isn't it? I'm just trying to stay off everything, but you literally can't avoid it. I think we were saying yesterday on the preview with Gareth, like you get a WhatsApp now and you're like, okay, maybe it's just a WhatsApp room and maybe it will pass in 10 minutes. And then some of the journalists come out and say it, and then ultimately it gets confirmed by the club and you're just like left with your head in your hands. But yeah, there needs to be a little bit of common sense now, doesn't there? I don't back that to happen, to be perfectly honest, as it hasn't happened throughout this whole situation. They've had a year and a half to prepare, but we'll see. I don't see it going ahead Thursday now. I don't know how it can.
Yeah, I'd like us to try and have a little bit of fun with this, because as you say, it feels a bit all-consuming at the moment. So I've come up with a little list of people who I think could take to the touchline for Liverpool if Pep Lijnders isn't available and if the game goes ahead. So Mighty Red is top of my list as the favourite to take over for Liverpool. I've also got the hologram of Bill Shankly. Obviously, if you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Harriet, have you got any suggestions for who you think should take to the touchline?
I'm trying to think of like someone from Tour, and Neil would just think he knew what he was doing. He probably would know what he was doing. So I'm gonna back Neil. Are you gonna back yourself, Josh? I feel like I'll back myself.
Would you back yourself? I'm not sure I would, to be honest. I don't know how inspiring I'd be to a group of like world-class elite footballers, really.
I feel like I'd just get them all in shape. I think they'd be a bit scared, to be honest. So maybe I do back myself. But no, I mean, I actually don't know who comes next from a serious perspective in the pecking order at Liverpool. Like if Klopp is out and Lijnders is out, who actually comes next? I think a lot of the other coaches have obviously actually got COVID now as well, haven't they? I think that people were saying that a lot of the goalkeeping coaches weren't around for the match and for the training, and obviously the training session was cancelled yesterday. So it actually might be Mighty Red. Like, I'm not even joking. It could be Mighty Red or Neil. We don't know yet. To be confirmed.
I love the idea that it's Neil, because I've been at the match for Neil and I can confirm that he talks you through every sort of.
That's what I mean, exactly.
So you're just there going, big five, Reds, big five. Come on, give me two more.
That's all they need. That's all they need.
Talk them through the game. We're getting a few comments in of who people think should be the next touchline manager for Liverpool if the Arsenal game does go ahead. Dave Hall says the tea ladies. That's an interesting perspective on it. Carol from the kitchen stuff. Yeah, I like that. Yes. Yeah, old Frank that stands. I can't read all that comment. Gareth Roberts. I'm not sure if Gareth would be the best one, because I feel like he would just be kicking off on everyone. And I feel like if you're Virgil van Dijk and Gareth Roberts kicking off on you, you're going, fuck off, lad. Who
are you coming for one game and telling me what to do? But that's going to be the problem with anyone, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, I was going to, yeah. If Harriet Prior is kicking off on them, they're going to be going,
who are you? What's the Anfield Wrap, mate?
Harriet Prior from the telly, of course.
No.
I'm just reading through some of the stuff on Twitter. Robbie Fowler sort of like half jokingly threw his hat into the ring for it. I'd be absolutely all for that. Paul Burke says James Milner. I think that's a good shout as well. The groundsman is on there. I just want to talk about basically the reaction to Liverpool trying to get the fixture postponed, Harriet, because that's sort of where we are at the moment, is that this application to get it postponed is currently pending, and there seems to be a bit of a weird sort of fallout from fans of other teams that Liverpool are trying to get a game postponed, where they don't have, the manager or the assistant manager. They don't have any of the goalkeeper coaches. They're missing quite a lot of players. On top of that now, they're missing Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Naby Keita. I think it's not quite the ideal situation for Liverpool, to be fair to them. No,
a lot of teams have obviously applied for postponement and it's been accepted in the last few weeks. There hasn't seemed to be any fuss made about it. And now because of the context and the fact that it's a League Cup game and people are saying, oh, you could just play all the kids and everything. I kind of get that perspective if it's like first, second round, but you're literally in a semi-final now, and we've got to a point in the competition where I think, like, as fans as well, we're all a bit invested in it now. Like, I want to see us do well. I want to trip to Wembley. I want us to get to the final. So I don't want us to be in a position where we're left with no manager no senior players, and we have to play basically kids in a game that actually might mean something. But yeah, other supporters from other teams, they're always going to be a bit funny because they always think that we have some strange, weird advantage that just doesn't exist. But I just, EFL have been really, really strict about it so far and saying basically both everything in their power to be able to play, and if they're able to, then then the game has to go ahead. I think the sticking point for us will be the goalkeeper thing, because basically it says I think 14 registered players with 2 goalkeepers available. I don't even think we have 2 goalkeepers available at the moment, because obviously Alisson's out with COVID. I don't know what's up with Adrian. I think Harriet might have to literally come back. They've literally basically said there is one player that could then be registered, but he's not match fit, and I can only imagine that's him, isn't it? So, I mean, I don't understand why anyone else would get in a weird way about this when literally we don't know who we would play. And ultimately, like if that's the case and we're on the same playing field as every other team and we have the right to apply for postponement, we should be able to. And also I think it's worth noting that I think Liverpool haven't applied for postponement in games, Premier League games, when they actually really could have and would have had a case to. And they've not wanted to do that because they wanted the games to go ahead. They wanted to be able to play fixtures, even though Klopp does complain about the fixture congestion and the amount of games that we have to play. They've still been reluctant to apply for postponement and for us games to be called off when we've had key players missing. So I don't think this is a situation now where they've just thought, okay, we'll just push it, because ultimately they're pushing a problem into the future, aren't they? And there's not even a clear time that the game's going to be played. So this is really going to be last case scenario for the club, and they felt now with the situation, which they obviously know best because they're living in it every day, that this is what they need to do, and it is the final straw. So I think everyone just needs to get off their back, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the EFL and sort of the other football governing bodies kicking the can down the road a bit as well. And I think, Klopp has said for ages there's no need for the League Cup to have a 2-legged semi-final. It feels, in a sort of year where COVID is still rife, it feels even more sort of negligent, to be honest, that they are letting there be a 2-legged semi-final. I think that would be, if I'm looking at it as the EFL, I'm saying, well, the first thing we can pack in here is that, if Liverpool can't play, one of these games, then maybe we take one off. And even if that means Liverpool have to just play one leg away at Arsenal, then so be it. That feels like, the punishment, if you want to call it that, for Liverpool getting a few COVID cases, if there's not everybody getting it at the moment anyway.
Well, yeah, and they did that last season. They played the semi-finals of the League Cup on one leg, and there was no real complaints, and it didn't cause any further issues down the line. So for me, ultimately, it makes no sense that it is played on 2 legs. Anyway, I feel like they could find a neutral ground if they needed to. If that was a sticking point, that one of the teams wouldn't get their home advantage over the 2 legs, I feel like it wouldn't be impossible to find a neutral ground, have less fans. I think both clubs are going to have to understand, and fans as well are going to have to understand there's going to have to be some sort of compromise with this. And I think we'd all be more than accepting of losing a game at Anfield if it means that this is played over 1 leg and it means that the game can go ahead. Because I just had a little look on the Athletic there, and it basically said there's no clear midweek during the domestic football season until after the Carabao Cup final is meant to be played. So literally, there's not even anywhere they're looking and thinking, okay, we can sort a game in there or a game in there. So I think that's probably why there is a reluctance to cancel it, because they're looking at the schedule and thinking, okay, well, where can we actually put this second leg in? And it might just have to be that, okay, they say, well, we're not going to do it, but that obviously impacts the other semi-final, and they need to make a call on that as well. And do we have any faith on them making calls that quickly when it hasn't seemed to be the way so far, has it?
Yeah, well, you mentioned there about, the idea that there's no more free games, and Klopp's been kicking off about this all season as well, sort of saying, if there are games getting postponed, there's no time to play them because they've crammed so many other games. And I feel like there's going to have to be sort of big decision made for one of these football governing bodies at some point to sort of say, well, we're going to extend the season or we're going to do something like this, because there's so many games postponed now. You go on the Premier League website with the fixture section, and there's about half the page at the top of just all the games that have been postponed, and they're going to have to go somewhere, like you say. And if there's now EFL Cup games getting postponed, then it's going to get a bit more sort of murky in the waters. And I feel like you're going to have more managers coming out. It feels like it's only ever Jurgen Klopp who's the one who's coming out, but I'm sure more managers will start coming out and saying, look, this isn't on, and we can't physically play all these games in the time frame that you want us to.
Yeah, and I think surely that they've known that they've had all these postponements, and they haven't tried to create new dates for them yet, because they don't know what other matches are going to be postponed and the knock-on effects that's going to have on the rest of the teams. And you're going to end up in situations where you're going to have had some teams playing 3 or 4 more games. We already had that with Tottenham already this season in the Premier League, where they played 3 games less than everyone else, and you're going to keep having that. And unless you're basically able to treat everyone on a level playing field and give everyone the same chances to have the same games postponed and have an equal playing field and the same rules, essentially, you're going to keep coming up with these situations. What's frustrating for me, and I think probably for the managers as well and the clubs, is that that the different governing bodies aren't working together on this. I think they're all clearly prioritising their own competitions, which they're always going to do, because that's what their priority is and that's what their responsibility is. But there needs to now be some sort of situation where they're actually all talking to each other and trying to support each other through it, because ultimately it's only going to impact the players and their well-being and their fitness, and also the entertainment. If you're looking at football as purely an entertainment thing, for us as fans, if we're not sure what's going on when matches are going to be played, if we're not able as fans to go to the matches, then it's going to have a knock-on effect on everything, isn't it? So there needs to be something now where the EFL are talking to different governing bodies, talking to the Premier League, talking to the FA, and coming up with solutions that work across all of it. And like I said, they have had a long time to plan for this and come up with contingency plans and backups, and that sort of doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, it's only been in the last couple of weeks that there's actually been rules put in place about how many players the clubs need to actually put a team out. I think it's 13, isn't it, or 14 registered players, and that's only come in the last couple of weeks. So it's all a little bit flux still and up in the air, but I think, yes, it needs to be an element of just everyone working together now and thinking, okay, what is actually best for the product and for the footballers, and not for the money in our pockets.
Yeah, and that's the transparency thing, isn't it? You know, Jurgen Klopp's been complaining about that as well. I feel like I just keep talking about the things that Jurgen Klopp's been complaining about, but they're very valid complaints. It's the sort of idea of transparency around it all. And Ant Dicko's commented there saying, Josh, you've forgotten the international tournaments and the Summer Nations League earlier start to then the season after is the World Cup. And yeah. I was sort of, that's what I'm talking about really, is the idea that the season gets extended and then you can knock into those things. But that requires the FA to turn around to UEFA and UEFA to turn around to FIFA and that kind of thing, and all start actually communicating on this, and then maybe finally we can get somewhere with it all.
Yeah, don't talk about the World Cup. Neil will have a breakdown if we mention that there's no fixtures in November and December next year. We can't think about that yet.
You wanted some Anfield Wrap suggestions of what we could do with the team, Harriet. So we've had a few coming in. We've had Chris Smith as Andy Heaton for sub goalie. Kev Walsh as another vote for sub goalie from Barry Higgins as well. John Brady says, "Can you sell Craig to Everton?" I'm really not sure how that would go down with Everton, to be honest, because I don't
Craig, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Craig would enjoy it, because I think there's a little diddle that Craig could do there to make life even more miserable for Evertonians. But I think from the Everton perspective, probably not that good a deal. Paul Alexander says Karius has to start. Well, we think that Kelleher should be fit, sort of providing that all is sort of well by then. But
do we know who the additional COVID cases are in the squad yet? We don't, do we?
There's nothing around that. So it's all very much up in the air at the moment. We're sort of reacting as it goes as well. If
Keller has managed to not get it, then it's a bit of a miracle, isn't it? If all the goalkeeping coaches have got it and all the other goalkeepers, I mean, fair play to him. But seriously, I haven't said this yet. I do hope everyone's all right, and we haven't really heard much about Klopp or Linders and their actual physical state. So priority is that everyone's okay, but it's all a bit mad, isn't it? Can the world just slow down a minute and just everyone calm down? Because I feel we need that at the moment.
We've got a comment from the Anfield Wrap, Sean Bennett there, saying, "Get TV's Harriet Prior up front." What do you reckon about yourself as a forward, Harriet? You wrote combat this yesterday and didn't put yourself in there, so
yeah, I don't know if that'd be the best idea. I think my column is about the extent of my knowledge on the subject. I mean, I even said to you yesterday, I was like, I don't know what the solutions are, so I'm just going to write about it and see what happens. I came up with something, but I think me playing up front would be a whole different scenario. So maybe Sean does actually play football, so maybe Sean's a better option, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Sean there. We'll suggest that to whoever manages Liverpool tomorrow. If it is Mighty Red, then we'll have to get in touch with him. We'll send him a DM and let him know that Sean Bennett can play up front for them. As I say, this is all massively a movable feast at the moment. We'll be reacting to it all on the Anfield Wrap. So make sure you're checking out our website, you're subscribing to the podcast and the video, and looking at the writing as well. I think it's just going to be how it goes for a few days. Up the Reds.